Today, comedy exists in many forms, both socially and artistically, and my goal with this video is to see kind of how we got here. But to do that, we're gonna need to go way back to a little thing called history. The prehistory of comedy is fuzzy, as with much of prehistory, so there's no one place that we can say comedy began, but I want to share with you one of my favorite theories for how it started. According to Robert Story in his article Comedy, Its Theorists, and the Evolutionary Perspective, laughter originated from this guy. And this guy. Scientists, like Darwin, noticed that primates displayed remarkably similar behavior to humans, even those of smiling and laughing. They believed that this behavior began as a fear response when an individual felt threatened, but eventually it became understood among the primates community as a sign of submissiveness and of social connection. This in turn passed down through the behavior of families and communities, eventually becoming the smiling and laughing that we know today. But Alex, you might be asking, why do we laugh at jokes then? Well, I answer you, the answer has to do with the structure of a joke. Okay, so there's a man who owns a really scruffy, really mean dog. And every day when the man takes his dog for a walk, the dog finds some other dog to attack. And this mean, scruffy dog wins every time. So one day they're out for a walk when they pass someone walking this yellow dog. And the mean dog immediately starts growling and starts attacking this yellow dog. However, the yellow dog picks up the scruffy dog, shakes it around, and kills it. The scruffy dog's owner is shocked, and he says to the yellow dog's owner, well, my dog always picks fights, and in the 2 years I've had him, he's always won. What happened? And the other owner says, yeah, well, before I cut off his tail and painted him yellow, mine was an alligator. Pretty good, no? Well, just like most other jokes, this follows the simple structure of a setup and a punchline. The setup is the part of the joke that establishes some reality. In this case, the setup is the mean dog and the fight, which makes the listener accept that this yellow dog just must be a meaner, scruffier dog than our protagonist. And now they're thinking of all the things they know that they can relate to mean dogs and scruffy dogs and yellow dogs, and most importantly, they're putting these pieces together in order to try to figure out, well, what's next? How is this yellow dog's owner going to defend himself? Is he going to say, oh, I just have a mean, scruffy dog, and it's meaner and scruffier than your dog? But then the punchline comes along, and it derails that whole thought process. The purpose of a punchline is to flip those expectations on their heads. And the fact that the yellow dog is actually an alligator, why, first of all, but there's no logical connection that can be made from everything this person who's hearing the joke is thinking about yellow dogs, about mean dogs, about scruffy dogs. And this punchline provides what Story would call a discrepant stimulus. And these discrepant stimuli parallel the discrepant stimuli that scared those monkeys so long ago. Just now, they're packaged in a different way with so many social cues that tell us, don't be afraid of this new discrepant thing. You can laugh at it, it's safe. And I'll talk more about the importance of a joke structure in some of my videos on mental health, but for now, let's see what humans did once they began to understand humor. And what did humans do? Well, they made it into art. And through pre-theatrical folklore, there are tricksters and stories meant to bring about laughter, and eventually, comedy reaches the big stage. Literally. So, Merriam-Webster has two relevant definitions of comedy. The first one is that it is a drama with light and amusing characters, typically with a happy ending. And the second is that it is humorous entertainment. Thorough definition, I know. Throughout the course of the series, I will be referring to the former as dramatic comedy, and the latter as humor. Although, if I do just say comedy, and I will, it should be pretty clear from context which one I'm referring to. Since this is a series on comedy as a whole, it's important to understand what connects these two definitions. And the answer, even though I didn't ask a question, lies in humanity. It is human nature, I believe, to have fun, to laugh, to want a happy ending. And it's also human nature to reflect ourselves through art, something that both types of comedy, I believe, do really well. So, how does comedy come into the art of humanity? Well, it starts with oral tradition, folklore. More specifically, it starts with the archetype of the trickster. Madev El-Abd defines the trickster as a character in which contradictory roles are combined in a single personality, again, just like the discrepant stimuli of a joke nowadays. These tricksters might shapeshift, taking the guise of one thing while truly being another. They tended to be male, and they tended to be crafty. But as is the cornerstone of comedy, they bring happiness, both to themselves and to others. Similarly, tricksters serve the same role as the fool in Shakespearean dramas. They, in all of their brilliance, can be bumbling buffoons blamed for their big blunders when they botch their burdens, and serve as something for spectators to smile at as they speculate their superiority over the stupid soul in the story. One of my favorite characters is that of the trickster in Winnebago mythology. In one story, and I quote, he instructs his anus to keep watch over the roasted ducks while he sleeps. And when he finds out that they have been eaten by foxes, he tries to punish the offender by sitting on the fire, but cannot endure the pain. Yeah. As always, however, the stories of these tricksters do not end with the death of usually anybody, and the characters return time and time again to provide stories that are, quite frankly, fun, and that show a world in which these bumbling mistakes and these fun, entertaining scenarios don't necessarily mean failure. They aren't necessarily a bad thing. And these characters took on a whole new meaning when they got to the Greeks. Aristotle, who was one of the most influential philosophers ever, wrote about two types of dramas: tragedy and, you guessed it, comedy. His tragic writings have been preserved and thoroughly studied, but their comedic counterparts have been lost to time, which is tragic, which is ironic. The existence of his writings on tragedy has perpetuated a sense among scholars that tragedy is a superior form of art, an idea that persists until today. There's not nearly as much writing on works of comedy as there are works of tragedy, but I still strongly believe that comedy matters. Just look how prevalent it is in theater, everywhere in theater, since ancient Greece. Let's hear what Professor McMahon has to say about this.
Yeah, like the earliest forms of it that we know about are in like ancient Athens, and you have somebody like Aristophanes who writes really ribald, controversial, sort of like South Park style comedy. Like the earliest staged comedies that we have are just like South Park. They are making political references, making fun of everybody, and doing so in the most vulgar ways possible. And what's so interesting about this is that like the Greeks really celebrated this. They created a whole day to stage comedies like this where people from all over the town, even like some evidence of like non-citizen, even like prisoners and enslaved folks would be in attendance at these things. And the whole idea was that it was like not only socially acceptable, it was encouraged to speak truth to power by making everybody laugh.
The power of comedy is here. A writer of comedy is able to use the roles of the fool and the trickster in very blatant, very obvious ways. Ways that will resonate really well with a wide audience of people. And they can flip the social order on its head, making common folk into protagonists, rendering the powerful foolish, and providing an ending in which the common folk, in which everybody is happy and free. And this, I believe, is why the comedic drama has persisted until today. Take Shakespeare, for example, who is famously known for having a theater that housed both common folk and the upper class. Comedy was, and still is, a way to let loose, to disregard stressful social norms, and to imagine a happier world for everybody. And during this time of Shakespeare, we begin to see the beginnings of what resembles modern-day stand-up comedy. The prologues and epilogues of these plays contained people out of character who spoke to the audiences humorously, ironically, and they laid the foundations for what stand-up comedy has become. And this is what led comedy from being associated with mainly comedic drama into being associated to what it is today, stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy, in case you're living under a rock, is a performance, usually by a single person on stage, which consists of humorous stories, jokes, one-liners, and crowd interactions, or crowd work. It began in the 1950s. While traces of it had been seen before, such as in the prologues of Shakespearean theater or in the vaudevilles of the 1920s, Matthew Dobb, in his article The Stand-Up as Stand-In, argues that what sets stand-up comedy of the 1950s and later apart is the intimacy between the crowd and the performer. Many of them tried to connect to their audiences, especially in response to the dehumanization that many people felt during the rise of 1950s consumerism. Lenny Bruce and Roseanne Barr, among others, used their position as a person on stage with a voice to fight for free speech, covering topics like race and sexuality, blatantly disregarding the social norms of the time. Mort Sahl and Richard Pryor cultivated a strong stage persona to connect to a wider audience, using their openness to connect with spectators and to share their stories and the stories of the people watching them. Today, comedy is catering to the millions of people who consume short-form content. There are more and more comedians posting clips of their shows or crowd work. There are memes and compilation videos, and yeah, there's brain rot. I'm going to leave it to someone else to analyze Skibbity Toilet, and I'm going to move on with my script. As we grow deeper and deeper into an age governed by technology, people retain their need for human connection. And while the algorithm likes to make us think that doom-scrolling Instagram Reels fills this need, it doesn't. This is not to say that the internet or video sharing platforms are bad. I mean, I'm here. But I would encourage you to all go out to comedy clubs, go see a stand-up show, go see some improv. It really feels good. No matter the form, be it ancient Greek dramas talking about political figures or modern-day stand-up comedians doing crowd work, comedy is intricately intertwined with art and with the social situations of the time. Analyzing comedy allows us to reflect on what our society values, both in the presentation of the work and in its content. But no matter what, it's important that we keep in mind what comedy is first and foremost. And that is art. And the performers we see on stage, we want to make you laugh. We want to have a good time. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.